Greetings, YouTube. In the near future, the second film in the Fantastic Beasts series will be released. So I thought I'd take a minute to talk about some of the things I noticed in the first Fantastic Beasts. Now, I thought it was a cute film. Some of the acting was quite well done. Some of the characters were entertaining. My wife loved it because it was loaded with all kinds of fantastical beasts, and she loves those kind of things. So we will definitely be going to see the sequel. I wish that Johnny Depp wasn't in it. He's kind of a trash fire. Now, there's two things I noticed about this film, the first one, and they were so glaringly obvious to me that I'm stunned that people haven't commented about it. And I haven't heard anybody comment about anywhere on this topic. And I am subscribed to quite a few channels that deal with films. And the first is the magic and the mundane. First of all, in this version of the United States, the mages actively prevent people from understanding that magic exists. They go out of the way. It's not just that they try to hide it, which they do, but they actually erase people's brains, erase their memories of magic. And that seems bad. Erasing someone else's memory should be a crime. Also, if you don't play by the rules, they'll execute you by making you have a fantasy and then dropping you into a vat of acid. Which seems morally and ethically disgusting and strangely complex to achieve something that you could with a dagger. That's just me. But the magic in this is far more overt. In the Harry Potter series, the magic was always used very subtly for the most part, in the mundane world. But here, there's damage to a street, and like 2 or 3 mages like wave their wands about, and whoosh, they reconstruct the entire street. All the damage is just magically erased. Do you have any idea how much good mages could do in the world? They could revolutionize humanity. They could utterly change humanity for the better. You combine the magic with the mundane science, and you could have Buck Rogers. You could be living in a post-scarcity, post-capitalist utopia. But no. We have to keep this all to ourselves. It bugged me in the Harry Potter movies, but this is even more obvious and more glaringly atrocious that they would be doing this. That they would hide the technology, magic, that could save so many lives, improve so many lives, letting people suffer and die just so that no one will know they exist, when they could be benefiting humanity. It's twisted. Alright, but the second thing is racism. Now, I'm not saying that the film itself is racist, because to the best of my knowledge, it really didn't have any racist, it wasn't endorsing any racist policies, not that it wasn't necessarily talking about the concepts of bigotry, that was touched on. But the president of the United States, of the magical United States in the film, is a black woman. She is the most politically powerful person in the entire United States for the magical community. And a powerful witch in her own right. Okay, so she has a lot of personal power with her magic, and a huge amount of political power because of her elected position. I think it's an elected position. I'm assuming it is. Yet she has to hide all this when she walks into the street and pretends to be a mundane woman. Now, I don't know if you are aware of this, but in America, one of the least politically powerful people there is a black woman. In fact, the only thing I can think, the only 2 levels that gets worse is that if you were a black lesbian or you are a black trans woman. That's less powerful than a black woman. But barring those 2 additions, being a black woman in America means that you politically and socially are pretty much at the bottom of the rung. and it's horrible. And that's now. In the 1920s and 30s, which is the era they're touching on here, the post-Depression era, or Depression era, I think it was actually in the Depression era proper. It was the nadir of race relations in America. They were lynching black people. They had no power. If a white person murdered a black person, they were going to get away with that. If a white person committed a crime and pinned it on a black person, that black person was going to prison or is going to be executed, rather than blame it on the white person. But this happened in the real world again and again and again. There's an instance where a woman was raped near a railroad and 9 men were found guilty of the rape and sent to prison, even though none of them had anything to do with it, but they were black. And like between the 9 of them, I think they spent like 140 years in prison until they were eventually exonerated. So you're telling me that the President of the magical United States, a woman with vast magical power and vast political power, is going to walk out of her office at the end of the day, hang up her wand, put on her mundane clothing, walk out the door, and suddenly become the least politically powerful person in America. And stand around and look at how people of her ethnicity, of her skin color, are treated every single day and not do a fucking thing about it? Bullshit. This story could only have been written by an entitled white woman. A white person, I should say. Completely ignoring race. Utterly ignoring race. There's no way that black woman is just going to sit idly by and let the atrocities happen to people of her ethnicity, of her skin color, and do nothing about it when she has this much power to stop it. She's a friggin' superhero. And you don't think she's not going to stand up and say no more? And remember, magic has always existed. The whole Harry Potter universe is a key example of how they have taken the real world and just layered on this tiny, thin little coating of fantasy elements and expected us to buy it. Our planet would be nothing like it is now if magic were real. If the magic of the Harry Potter universe, both in the British version and in the United States version, what we've seen so far in these two different worlds, if that existed from the second it was activated on our world, our history ends and the new history begins. The only similarities that our world would have to the Harry Potter universe would be the globe itself. The language would be different, the cultures, the societies, the religions, everything. And there would be a whole lot less bigotry because some of those minority groups will just blast your skulls off at will. So I was just appalled at the white privilege presented to me in that film. It was such bull, and I was so disappointed in J.K. Rowling by this. Women and black people, of course, were not surprised by this. She has been known for ignoring many things that were questionable in her universe. Just as a lighter note, just like the sex of going on in that school, they must have had buckets of birth control being dumped in there, or maybe the magical version there is. But she ignored the fact that you put that many teenagers together in one spot, and they're going to be having sex. Now in the Harry Potter universe, chastity seems to be the norm, which is just twisted and weird. So she's really good at ignoring things that she doesn't want to deal with. And racism, and misogyny, and the brutal treatment of black people in the world are things that J.K. Rowling completely ignored in this story. So yes, I did enjoy the film in many levels, but that was just astounding to me. And I'm hoping that someday someone can do a fantasy urban story that makes a whole lot more sense than anything I've seen so far. The only way to pull it off is that have the magic show up now. And that way all the history till now changes. And then you have to take it from that moment and have the magic forward and have those ramifications permeate the culture everywhere. Because it's not going to be limited to one thing. That magic is going to permeate all of culture, society, on every level. Sexism, racism, homophobia, transphobia, everything. Religious ramifications. And authors just don't want to deal with it because it's too complex, and I can understand that. But I was really appalled at how Rowling dealt with, or didn't deal with, the racism of her world, and then just expected a black president who has great power to just leave work at the end of the day and go and be a powerless person watching her people being crushed by white supremacy.